Hi, good afternoon. My name is James Toto. Welcome back to Liquid Lunch. I'm filling in for John Tobacco, and with us we have Dr. Wanda Wallace. She's a leadership coach, a radio host of Out of the Comfort Zone. Welcome, Dr. Wallace, to Liquid Lunch.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, 2021, 20 was very challenging. 2021, what are some of the key things we need to do here in 2021?
Well, I think one of the first things is that we can't get our sights set on everything's going to magically change January 1 in 2021. We still have a bit of a long journey. And if you're in a business, you still got a lot of recovery to do. I mean, there's a lot that we're going to still have to cope and manage with. And I think one of the watchwords that's been of 2020 has been resilience, that ability to recognize it didn't go to plan. What am I going to do about it? How do I pick up and move forward? And I think we're going to have to stay with that journey into 2021. I just don't think it's going to be over that quickly. And I don't think we're going to go back to life the way it used to be. I think we're going to look forward to something different.
Different. Everyone says they want to get back to normal. Everyone says, "Well, this is the new normal. This is the way things are." So, and looking at the way corporations and organizations operate, what do you see the differences that are coming down the line?
Well, everybody's talking about whether we'll continue the virtual work world. And I think we will do some hybrid. I think everybody said that. No new news there. What that hybrid looks like, though, is going to be interesting. One of my pet peeves with all of my clients is that we actually haven't learned how to do virtual communications as effectively as we could to do them. And I think we're all going to be better if we just drill down and say, this isn't going away. And how do we get really good at it? Like, how do we all become broadcasters in effect?
Right. And it's, I'm not the most comfortable person on Zoom and having, meetings with Zoom meetings. Sometimes they went a little bit over because people were jumping in. It wasn't as organized as it usually is. So how can companies, not so much streamline their businesses, but it's just the Zoom meetings. How do people need to learn to re-communicate in those Zoom meetings? What are the key factors for that?
Okay, so two things. Number one, get over how you look on camera. Just get over it. It's there. It's a reality. You got to get used to it. The psychological research tells us that if your face is on your screen, you can't avoid looking at it. So either train yourself to not look at it or turn off your own view, but get over it. I can't communicate effectively with you or anyone if you can't see my face. You need that visual representation to have a sense of what I'm thinking. So that's number one. We've got to get better with it. And that means get a good camera, get a good light, all those things that are easy to do today. The second thing is, even in our face-to-face meetings, we have lost the art of running a really powerful meeting. And on Zoom, that becomes critical. So on Zoom or whatever your platform, if I'm running the meeting, I now have to control who's speaking, how they're speaking, where they're speaking, how long they're speaking. I have to control the agenda in a more structured way. And we've just got to get back to smart meeting management.
Right. And it's, how are companies going to retrain their employees to do this? So what are the key factors for that?
Well, I have a little bit of a different mantra for 2021. Instead of companies retraining their managers, how about we all retrain ourselves? The tools for doing that are out there in the public domain. There's podcasts. I've done podcasts on it. There's a lot of experts. It's pretty easy to figure out the 5 things you should do that's going to make for a great Zoom meeting. So get better at it as an individual. Don't wait for the company. How's that?
It's about as blunt as it could be. That's bad. I do like that, though. It's funny because it's you were saying about the face-to-face contact, and I am not the most computer literate person that's out there. That's one of the challenges that I've had to overcome here in 2020. And my screen went blank yesterday during the broadcast, and it threw me for a loop, and I felt discombobulated. I was all over the place, or that's the way I felt inside. And it was one of those things and now I can see you, back and forth, and I'm very comfortable with that. Now, for someone who's not technically savvy, and I'm learning this whole process, I'm learning with it, and the folks here at Liquid Lunch have been phenomenal. I gotta give kudos where kudos is due, because Lord knows they've had patience with me. How does someone overcome those, those barriers that I have?
Well, every time something goes wrong, especially when you're on point and you know you're in broadcast mode, so your appearance is going to your talk is going to have a big impact on a lot of people. You've got an extra level of nervous energy, and that's true if you do it every day like I do or something else. So when the technology fails, and inevitably something will fail, we all get nervous. And part of it is just laugh and move on with it. I think we all know that. So there's no secret that's going to get you through that. Now, with that said, if you know where all the buttons in your current technology platform are working, particularly as a person in a job, regular job, not as a broadcaster, with a TV crew behind you, you can go play with them, figure out how they work, figure out how you change all those things for your own advantage.
Good points to follow, and it's one of those things that we've got to get over that hump. Now, how are corporations read not so much redirecting, but how are they managing that within the company themselves? How are what do you see folks doing out there to improve themselves?
Yeah. Well, there's a whole bunch of things. Like I said, a bunch of podcasters, a bunch of writers, a bunch of coaches that have put out lots of pieces of advice, written and visual, on how to do this. So, a couple of things that I would say just as pointers for individuals and that I would encourage companies to support. Number one, you need a good microphone. And the things that are in our laptops and our standard desktops make your voice not as clear as it needs to be. So when I'm trying to emphasize a point and I'm missing that clarity, I'm going to lose some of the impact. So it's a real simple process. Buy yourself a lapel mic. They're not that expensive to do. They're still readily available. I hope the company will support it, but if not, it's an investment in your communication skills. Or get a more sophisticated mic if you want. The second one is we often have really lousy cameras on our computers, which make it hard to see, and we can't adjust it, and we can't adjust the angle of it. We can't adjust the height of it. So again, get a second camera that you can adjust and adapt. And then the third piece is there's lighting. There's just really easy lighting. I'll show you. I use this lovely little box right here that just adds an extra little bit of lift that makes it, hopefully makes me look a little bit better, all of which
You
is
look great. You do.
communication skills. So I would say that. And I also think we need some practices on Zoom that are going to, or whatever your platform, that are going to make this work. So one of the things we've been concerned about is how do we create a more inclusive culture in our workplaces? Well, this technology platform actually makes it easier to do that, because if I'm running the meeting, I can look and see who hasn't spoken and intentionally call that person into the conversation. And it's somehow easier to do in this virtual environment than it is to do in the face-to-face environment. It's also possible to stop people from talking, to cut them off a little bit smoother in the virtual environment than it is to do in the face-to-face environment. So I think there's some advantages if we learn to use them.
I think this is great advice, and I thank you for the advice itself. And yes, you do look great. So, some setting attainable New Year's resolutions. What are some of the goals that people should have in mind?
Okay. All right. So I want to pick up on career. One of my pet peeves going at the moment, one of the things I want to help people on the most is we all walk away from 2020 and into 2021 and say, this is the year that I'm going to get that title, that promotion, that opportunity, that pay raise, pay increase. And that is probably the worst goal you could set for yourself ever, because so much of that goal is out of your control. Yes, you may deserve that opportunity or you may deserve that pay increase, but there's so many other factors that you don't know anything about that control whether or not you're going to get those. So set something that's a little bit more under your control. So what I like to say to people is set an experience, a skill, a perspective that's going to put you in a better position to get that goal or promotion or a pay increase that you're looking for. And then you have control over whether you develop that skill or capability. So that's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I'll say is when you set that skill or capability you want to acquire, then You want to, I'm not sure what just happened there, but at any rate, if you set that one, then what you want to do is to set small goals, very specific, tangible pieces that you can see progress on and feel good about and celebrate the successes of. And then the third thing is nothing ever goes to plan. You got to be willing to adapt.
So great advice for not just 2020, but 2021 and looking to the future. Thank you so much, Doctor. We appreciate having you on. I wish you a happy new year, a healthy one, and you know, and the time to enjoy both the happiness and the health.
You as
Thank
well.
you for being here. Happy New Year. Thank you very much. Coming up, we have David Eisenbach, and join us again here for Liquid Lunch.